Awakening America. This is Remember the Fallen from COVID-19 on KLRNradio.net, and I am Sergeant Dave Matthews at gmail.com in the Revitalizing Lives and Remember the Fallen studio in beautiful Seminole County, USA on the Winter Springs Oviedo line. You see, we have adjusted our fire format to cover this pandemic for the freedom of justice. I feel we all have this gut feeling that we can't believe what is revolving around us as Americans decide on who to believe. I only can hope that podcasts like these and others on KLRNradio.net will live up to our slogan, where liberty and reason still reign, as you make up your mind in this uncertainty. This is Sergeant Dave in the Remember the Fallen Revitalized studio. Here with Mark After Dark. How you doing tonight, Mark?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
All Dave, all night.
And what's going on with our Constitution? It's like it's on a sabbatical. It's like it's in quarantine. I've never in my lifetime have seen anything like it. There's so much overreach and political interference going on. Tell me, what do you say about all this, Mark?
Wait a minute. You said Constitution? You
Yeah.
mean we still have one of those?
Yeah,
I didn't know we still had one of those.
Right.
I think what we're seeing now is the far left has been exposed. Their whole agenda has been, and I think more and more Americans are horrified because it's kind of like a horse with blinders on. They've had the blinders ripped off, and they see them for what they are, and they're horrified by it because they got to a point they knew they couldn't just spring all this on us all at once. So they've been working at it for decades and decades and decades. And now toward the end, when President Obama got elected, and then a lot of left wingers came in, they tried to do a sprint to push it right over the finish line. What they did is they overexposed themselves. So now they're out in the open, everybody sees it, and people are sprouting up all over the country to fight against it.
So 2020 has become the land of no consequences. It's like these governors, they're so rogue right now. How do they expect to get voted back in? Who can vote these people back in, Mark? So what is really going on? Is it the deep state? What do you think it is?
The lawlessness of some elected officials at all levels of government, from the federal all the way down to the local level. Basically it could be argued that it's not just unlawful, but it's unconstitutional, a lot of these things these governors are doing, as an example. Like, look at Governor Whitmer up there in Michigan. She's a holy terror.
Yeah.
You can't buy seeds to plant stuff in your yard. You can't take your boat out. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But you can go in the box stores,
yeah,
right? But you can't go to church.
Yeah, so you can go and rent a pornographic movie. You can go in the liquor store. You can go buy cigarettes. You can go buy your marijuana, but you can't go to church and worship God.
Mark, you're forgetting the lottery tickets.
Oh, the lottery tickets. Got to have the lottery.
Got to have the lottery.
Got to have my Mega Millions.
Got to scratch off.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's like they're so hell-bent against people of faith, it's not even funny. And that's the far left exposing themselves. They've always been against religion.
Because it's a well-known fact now that conservatives have a Christian base. Now you're seeing a new movement of the African-American community, the population, starting something that's called Walk Away. In other words, walk away from the Democratic Party because they are becoming lawless when it comes to anything with the Bible. I mean, they're basically doing everything the opposite of the Bible, any kind of description. So this is what I'm seeing out there, and you're going to start seeing this movement right now, Mark. Have you seen that movement?
Yes, I have, and it's not just with Christianity or people's religious beliefs, be they what they may, but it's also they've been making a bunch of promises in the Democratic Party to people to try to get their votes for decades now. And what have they really done? They make all these grandiose promises, and they don't deliver on most of them, and then they get people hooked on entitlement programs, so they take what was meant to be a safety net and they turn it into a giant entitlement program. Well, we'll give you all this money and all this free stuff if you vote for us. But what happens is, eventually the free stuff is the same thing that happens with socialism. To quote the great Margaret Thatcher, sooner or later you run out of other people's money. And that's the problem with socialist programs. So it just does not work. And a lot of what's happening, I mean, me, Dave, I've got a very eclectic group of friends.
Smorgasbord.
Yeah, right. I'm all over the map. I mean, I've got so-called, the so-called African community and the Latino community and the Asian community. And I just think of American community why can't we just be Americans? Why do we have to be pigeonholed in all these different compartments? And it seems like that's what the Democrats want to do to maintain their power. They want to turn us against each other when we should be fighting together with each other against the people that are doing this to us.
Well, it's becoming foreseen now because obviously that's why they're coming up with the new mail-in voting now because we're finally getting wind of it. These minority groups are finally seeing the light with the Democratic Party. So now their last-ditch effort is going to be on mail-in voter fraud. That's the only way they're going to win this election. They've tried everything. They've ruined our economy, the global economy, and now they're going to the last straw is going to be voter fraud. But let's talk about what we're seeing here once again with the Epic Times bringing this story to the forefront of vitamin C. Now, we know my grandmother, your mother, everyone's has always given us vitamin C for a cold immunity system. They're going against it. So tell me more about this story, Mark. I know we've really been focusing on it. And go ahead. Lead me into it.
The Epic Times really does a good job with this. They're talking about the Dr. Charles Mock, and he is one of many doctors that's been doing research into using vitamin C. And come to find out that doctors across the globe are using vitamin C in high doses intravenously to aid in people recovering from different kinds of viruses. There have even been cases where they've been able to stop the development of polio and actually reverse the effects of polio. So at some point when you get enough vitamin C in the human system, it becomes an antiviral or has an antiviral effect. Well, they're noticing that with the COVID-19, they've been treating people with that, and they've actually had some people they were able to help get over it. Because with all that vitamin C in there, the human body is using it up like crazy in order to fight the virus. So they've got doses here. One dose was like 20,000 milligrams a day, but intravenously. They're putting it in because they figure if you're in the hospital, you already have an IV hooked up. It's easy enough to just do it through that. Now, if you had to take a pill every 10 minutes or a couple pills every 10 minutes, over hours and hours and hours, that would get a little ridiculous.
Right.
Whereas they can feed it right in. Plus, whenever you take a pill, like a vitamin or anything, the high percentage of that never makes it through your system and into your bloodstream because it gets caught up in your liver and your other organs that have to process that. So intravenously, it's an instant effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, they've seen all kinds of progress with treating various different viruses, like I said, with vitamin C in high doses.
All right, back to the vitamin C story. Once again, what should we underscore with this story we got with the Epic Times?
Think suppression.
Yeah.
There's a lot of news that's out there, and doctors are trying to get it out, but they keep getting squashed. Anything that goes on YouTube or Facebook is getting squashed.
If it doesn't go by the CDC guidelines.
Right, or they say that, but really what it is that there is, believe it or not, and it's not a conspiracy anymore because the evidence is overwhelming, there is a ruling elite class that's trying to suppress that information in order to control the population. So these doctors try to get out there using social media and all other means to get the word out, hey, vitamin C, as an example, can work for different things, and they get squashed on it. And as far as Dr. Mott goes, how they shut him down, a bunch of FBI agents basically swarmed and raided his place.
How convenient.
Yeah, and it was in Michigan.
Oh, of all places.
Yep. They got a governor there. Whitmer. Okay. Haven't we been talking about how corrupt she is?
Yes.
Okay. So then there's another thing here, too, is that, so basically they hit him with a 47-page complaint that alleged he was involved in some kind of Medicare or Medicaid fraud, that he was allegedly concocting some kind of bogus healing, kind of like a snake salesman, with vitamin C to cure people of diseases and stuff. I mean, the whole thing was ridiculous. It was made up out of whole cloth just to suppress him, to keep that information from getting out there. So I guess the big question is, who is making all these doctors, or shutting all these doctors up and suppressing them? Because also in this article, it covers other doctors across the country and across the globe that are being suppressed by different governments around the globe, not just in our country, from letting this information get out there.
I think if you follow the trail, it will bring you to, obviously, the CDC, then the WHO, and then the National Health Institute, and then globalists. I mean, it sounds like that's where it's going, because they're going to basically crush the global economy to get back. It all comes back to get back at Trump. So he'll lose the election because everyone's going to think that he blew it.
Yep.
And that's the only thing they have. But now they have the voter fraud too. So they're trying everything they can.
They're desperate at this point. The wheels are coming off the bus, and they're fighting like mad. They're getting desperate, and the more harder they try, the more their desperation shows. And this gets back into the last show we did where we were talking about the ruling elites, the Chinese influence, the Communist Chinese Party's influence on these global organizations like the World Health Organization is basically a puppet for the Chinese Communist Party. World Bank, International Monetary Fund, all these different organizations that have a stranglehold on medicine and finance. WTO, World Trade Organization.
Yeah.
We never should have let the Chinese in that.
Yeah.
And then let them maintain a developing nation status. They got the second biggest economy in the world. So now they're affecting our healthcare, and they're suppressing news about different treatments, things we've known about for decades that actually work, and now we can't use that. We got to buy like an expensive immunization shot or something.
How about that? They only pay $50 million towards the WHO. We pay $400 million.
Something like that, yeah.
We pay 8 times more than the Chinese.
Right.
And they're infiltrated the whole system over there.
We're paying them to screw us over.
Yeah. Who is watching this?
Who's watching the
guard?
story?
I've never seen this. I don't know what's going on with America all of a sudden.
But see, I think what it is you're not seeing it because you haven't been seeing it, and the reason why you and a lot of other people haven't been seeing it, it's been going on for a long time. It's just now it's been exposed.
All right, getting back to the Epoch Times. In March, the World Health Organization, WHO, warned governments of all nations not to promote any unproven and potentially dangerous remedies in regard to COVID-19, the CCP virus. Several health officials have identified vitamin C as a prime offender? What? Stating there is no scientific evidence that taking this nutrient will help prevent or treat COVID-19. We've been taking vitamin C ever since I was 2 years old. It's been around for 100 years, and they're coming up with this stuff. Who is behind that, Mark?
Well, people are being told basically that there is a safety issue, but there isn't. According to Dr. Klenner, the safety of vitamin C is fabulous, in his words. And he said it was the safest substance available to the physician. And there is actually research that's been cited going back to the 40s where it was used as an antiviral. Another thing I want to bring up, Dave, too, is the American Association of Poison Control Centers. Basically, they keep an eye on the statistics for every year, going back to like 1985 or maybe even beyond that, of who dies and what they die from, ages, etc. There is absolutely no documented cases of anybody dying from vitamin C or any kind of overdose on vitamin C. Yet they've been doing it, feeding it to people intravenously as an antiviral and doing all kinds of things with it. Vitamin C is a very safe, even in high doses, because whatever you don't need, it's one of those supplements or one of those substances that the body will just get rid of it. There has been some gastrointestinal distress and everything attributed to it, but the symptoms are fairly mild, and you can tell right away. That way you back off on it. So if you're having a bad reaction to it, that means you've obviously, it's like a throttle, you've given it too much gas, so you need to back off on the amount of the dosage that you're giving somebody.
This reverts back to hydroxychloroquine, HCQ. It's exactly what's going on. No one had an overdose of HCQ. The only reason why they didn't want to use it because it was so affordable for the population out there, $14 per dose. And once again, they're putting profits before humanity.
Well, it's the same thing, Dave, that they're doing vitamin C and a lot of other alternative medicines out there. But are they really alternative? Not if they've been using them successfully for decades. So really what it boils down to, the point you just made, which is very valid, because that medicine is cheaper and more readily available and proven, and they don't want you to use that. They want you to use the newer drugs that aren't as safe, aren't as proven, and are a lot more expensive.
Let's just follow the greedy trail. They should be able to figure this out.
Okay, well, let's look at a really important point of this. How many congressmen, both Republicans and Democrats, in the House and in the Senate, or other elected offices around the country, get campaign contributions, all right, from the pharmaceutical companies? Big Pharma has a huge lobby in D.C., and they're one of many groups that has a big lobby there. So these congressmen are dependent on campaign donations to get reelected, and they're able to craft legislation even in some circumstances where they actually write the language in the legislation with their lobbyists to favor their company or their industry.
We need to expose them, Mark. That's the only thing we can do right now.
Well, they're being exposed now, but it's an upward hill battle. Run down the list, for example, like, was it Billy Tozen and a bunch of other politicians that were in Congress, and what did they do? They leave Congress and they go to work for a pharmaceutical company, and now they're making millions.
And they're lobbyists.
Oh yeah, they come right back as a lobbyist. They still have congressional privileges, so they can go work out at the gym and eat at the restaurant. And they're mixing it up with these other congressmen because they have full unfettered access to them. So they're like the ultimate insider lobbyist, and then they're influencing the legislation. It's incestuous, the relationship that goes on there.
There's so much political interference out there. It's so easy to digress, isn't it, Mark?
Oh yeah,
we go off on tangents. Let's get back to the vitamin C story. So there's so much research on vitamin C every year that you would have to have a lot of extra time to follow it, right? And we don't, of course.
No.
So get this: vitamin C is one of the most studied substances on the planet. Vitamin C is being used right now to treat COVID in the hospitals in China, Turkey, Italy, and of course, the United States. But why are they stopping this in Michigan?
Well, look at who controls Michigan. You know? I mean, we already talked about the governor there. She's far left radical Democrat.
How is she controlling the whole state? I don't get that. The governors do control the whole state. It can't Trump step in?
That gets into the whole point where the Attorney General has now been stepping up and making public statements about governors in certain states overstepping their constitutional rights, their boundaries, and they're calling them on it. The Justice Department is calling them on it because they're basically what they're doing is they're playing fun games with the Constitution. They're actually violating the Constitution with some of these rulings, and it's only a matter of time before the Justice Department has to get involved and start sanctioning or taking some serious measures to stop these people.
We need an executive order.
Well, the executive order thing is a great idea. I mean, let's look at it this way. President Trump already did that with the whole church thing, where he's like, look, you can't keep people from going to church. That gets back to the whole discussion we had earlier in the show about going to church, or you can go to a liquor store, you can go to Walmart, you can go to this place or that place, but you can't go to church?
There's a reason why it's the First Amendment in our Constitution.
Yeah,
right?
So what it means basically is that these governors are walking all over the Constitution, and like I said, it's only a matter of time before the Justice Department steps in and does something about it. And they actually already are. So I would not be surprised to see if President Trump issues more executive orders to counter this, or if the Attorney General basically has to go and start arresting people. I mean, it sounds extreme, but what they're doing is extreme.
When's the next Congress break? Because you told me you can't arrest them while they're in session.
This is a very good point. I'm glad you brought this up. I know we've talked about it before. A little misnomer out there. I've read, what the rules are, and it's my understanding. I mean, I could be wrong, and I'm open to correction.
Yeah.
But you cannot arrest a United States congressman or United States senator for any kind of crime or criminal activity or indict them while they're in session. So when they go on recess, that's when you bag them. So if I were some of these congressmen and senators, if they've been involved in anything illegal and there has been a grand jury impaneled, I would not be surprised if some people got arrested as soon as session was over and they went on break. You have to wait until they're on break or they're out of session. So that's the only time I think that the Justice Department could touch them.
All right, let's wrap this show up. Let's tie a bow around it. I think we should really be focusing on saving the lives of these patients first and then work out the politics later. Doctors need to save the lives of their patients, and physicians who are using vitamin C are reporting that this is working.
You know, I think the reassuring thing in this whole thing, Dave, is that there are still plenty of doctors out there that took the Hippocratic Oath seriously, and you're getting the research and the data out there for the world to see.
Unfortunately, the media is putting out stuff that is scary because that is what the media does. And of course, we would like our audience, you guys out there, to do due diligence and research what we are saying so you can get back to us and share with us some maybe content that you want to hear at sergeantdavematthews@gmail.com. That's SGTDavematthews@gmail.com. Stick around another minute while I take care of our sponsor, Symmetry Financial Group. After all, we fought for freedom, so isn't it time you broke the chains of debt?
We have an epidemic in this country. It's called debt. As consumers, we all have debt, whether it's school loans, car loans, credit cards, or your biggest debt of all, your mortgage. And as veterans, you deserve to put yourself and your family in a better place financially. Between the interest rates, the fees, taxes, and other charges that we all incur, we're just sheeple in the same old rat race. So if I asked each one of you, are you 100% sure you're going to have a great retirement, or do you have some doubt? Or what if I said, if I could show you how to get out of debt in 9 years or less, including your mortgage, without spending any additional money, would you be interested in knowing more about that? Well, I can. I can do just that. And guess what? It's all tax-free, and it has a death benefit.
All right, it's getting 0:30 for the show, and before I relax, never, and go into rack ops mode, go to sergeantdavematthews@gmail.com for suggestions for the next podcast content. And you can always get a hold of me on my Twitter handle, @Heroic Memorials. And if you like my Facebook page, go ahead and like that page. Remember the Fallen, all one word. All right, remember the Fallen. And if you're drowning in debt, let the Mitri Financial Group throw you a lifeline. And remember now, it's veterans helping veterans. Let a veteran that took the oath help you win the battle of debt. Email me at dmatthews.sfg@gmail.com. Once again, that's dmatthews.sierrafoxtrotgolf@gmail.com. All right. Until all our troops come back safe from Afghanistan, I will see you again tomorrow night, 9 o'clock again, for the spin-off show, Revitalizing Lives. Now, if you can go to the show, remember, it's always 18th, 17th to the right at klrnradio.net. And if you want a debt-free life like me, you can text me at 321-356-6559. All right, Pub Smoke out.